So welcome to Convocation on this beautiful fall day. We gather today to celebrate the beginning of a new school year. This chapel provides a wonderful place for us to come together as a community, and it is here where you will converse with a wide variety of speakers over the course of the year. This morning is no exception, as you will hear from one of your peers, one of your teachers, and your head of school. Additionally, you will have a chance to recognize and congratulate the accomplishments of your classmates. Each year, the community selects a theme for the curriculum, and it is this year, the theme is building bridges. Over the course of this morning, this week, and this year, we have the opportunity to reflect on what building bridges, both figuratively and literally, means. As a teacher of physics and engineering courses, I love not only the physical nature of bridges, but what they represent. It is rare that a bridge is easy to build. We all probably have some image of a bridge in our minds at this very moment, but I want you to think for a moment about the bridge or the connection that you make with all of the other people in this room. We hail from at least 17 different countries from around the world and represent nearly half of the states in this country. We have no choice but to make connections with those that sit beside us, who come from different places with diverse backgrounds and stories. But don't take building bridges lightly. They take time, effort, and care. It is also nearly impossible to build a bridge alone. As Frederick Neal said, it takes both sides to build a bridge. They take time. Things won't always go smoothly. But if we persevere, the benefits can be limitless. Ralph Ellison wrote, "Education is all a matter of building bridges." And I couldn't agree more. If we consider for a moment the outcome of a year's worth of collective learning within these yellow walls, the potential is palpable, rich, and unbounded. Each day in the classroom can be an adventure if we are each willing to do the work to build the necessary bridge with the person next to you, the idea being discussed, or the curriculum as a whole. What is the benefit of working to build a bridge with that person, idea, or class? What is the cost if you don't? Think about that. These are things that I am reflecting on as we begin the school year and embark on the second decade of the 21st century. And I would encourage you all to give those things some thought as well. All right. It's now my pleasure to introduce our speakers. First, as our student speaker, it is my pleasure to introduce Jade Morton-Alexander as our student convocation speaker this year. Jade is starting her fourth and final year as a member of the Westover community. She is a proctor, a WALSA head, in addition to being a 3-season athlete playing volleyball, squash, and tennis. One of Jade's favorite hobbies is traveling, and she went on the South African exchange last year, which sounded like it was amazing. Jade lives in New York City, is a West. Most telling, her friends describe her as kind, uplifting, and amazing. With that, I give you Jade.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Jade!
Everyone is new to something. Freshmen are new to Westover, its traditions, its classes, teachers, and students. Seniors will be new to college next year, having to make new friends and new bonds, learn a new campus, and start new opportunities in life. There will always be a time where you will see new faces, have to learn new names, and face new beginnings. Growing up, I hated being new. I disliked it so much because I despised the entire process of introducing myself, letting people learn who I am, and then learning who they are. The one thing I truly disliked was the judgment of whether people wanted to be my friend or not. I truly thought it was a drag. As most of you know, little Jade was a shy girl. Talking was not my expertise. My family told me not to talk to strangers from a young age, and I took this advice to heart. I think I took this advice a little too seriously because I did not make many friends. If I'm being honest, coming to high school was probably the first time I actually made genuine friendships on my own. I did not like being the new girl, even if there were other new people around. I was not an outgoing person, but my mother did not seem to catch on to this idea. She was always talking about sending me away because she wanted a better future and more opportunities for me. She first sent me off to summer camp in Vermont. During the time, I absolutely loathed going to camp because it was in the woods, it was hot, and I had no phone for 7 weeks. If I wanted to speak to my mother, I would have to send her a letter and wait a week to receive a letter back from her. The first year I bawled my eyes out because I did not want to leave her, but even worse, I did not want to spend my summer making new friends when I knew I could enjoy staying home in my air-conditioned, televised house without interacting with people. At the beginning of summer camp, everyone knew each other, but I was all alone, and I thought I never made friends. The only way I made friends and interacted with others was if they came to me first. This happened in high school too for some of my freshman year. You can ask any of my close friends, specifically Cecilia. However, after going to camp for 3 years straight, I actually learned to love being in my surroundings and made some great lifelong friends. But of course, I knew not to tell my mother this because she would just send me off again. But boy, was I wrong, because here I am at boarding school. I'm going to switch gears for a quick second and tell you about a story before high school and camp days of what I thought at the time was the worst day of school in my life. I was a new little first grader at my school, Harlem Academy, and it all took place around my first or second week of school. Keep in mind, young Jade did not like socializing at this age, and she barely had friends. When I mean barely, I mean I probably had 0 friends, but some kids in my class tried to make small talk with me, and I gave them no time of day. Anyway, we were having a spelling quiz, and my first grade teacher was calling out words for us to spell. 2 things to note here. 1, not to brag, but I was quite a smart first grader. And 2, I love my birthday. It is literally my favorite day of the year. My first grade teacher told us to spell August, my birthday month. I thought to myself somewhere along the lines of, yeah, I got this in the bag. I finished my quiz, and I'm not gonna lie, I was feeling great for the next few days until the day came back that I got my grade back. I was so ecstatic when she placed that little sheet of paper in my tiny hands. But when gazing over the top of the paper, my heart dropped. I got a 9 out of 10, a 90%. Like, how could I, of all people, get something wrong? My heart sank when I saw what I misspelled. August, my own birthday. I spelled it A-U-G-O-S-T. Like, really, Jade? I was in a horrible mood the entire day until I got picked up. But when I thought my day could not have gotten any worse, it did. Let me paint this picture for you of the next 2 minutes of my life that felt like an eternity. I want you to pretend you're little me and play this in slow-mo in your mind. You're waiting at your little desk with your head down, feeling all depressed. Well, as depressed as a 7-year-old can get over a grade. It is silent in your classroom, and all of your classmates are either reading or drawing while they wait for their families to pick them up. You hear footsteps walking into the room, and your head flips to the door. You make direct eye contact with one of your family members with the saddest face. And the next thing they must have seemed to scream is, "What's wrong, my JD boo-boo?" Oh my gosh. Did I hear that correctly? My heart dropped for the 3rd time in that day. How could my own family embarrass me and call me my nickname in front of everyone in my class? I was so ashamed. I knew that I would get teased and made fun of because of their stupid, inconsiderate mistake. I thought not only does my new teacher think I'm an idiot for spelling my own birth month wrong, but also my entire class knows my embarrassing nickname and will hold that against me forever. I was going to be labeled that weird new girl. Now that I'm looking back on it, I see how dramatic little me was. However, this first grade moment really did cause a silence and restraint that prevented me from approaching others for many years. Making friends was hard, and talking in front of crowds was impossible for me. I always thought that if I talked, someone would make fun of me. All I ever heard growing up was, "Can you repeat that again?" or "Speak up, Jade, no one can hear you." I disliked giving speeches or presentations in class. It truly did feel like torture. While I grew older, I obviously talked to more people and was not that shy anymore, but honestly, I did not voluntarily talk to anyone. There were many things that contributed to my changing and growing into a more conversational person, but the most important one was a conversation I had with my mother. She sat me down one day before I was going off to high school, and she told me the story of how she grew up being shy, being an immigrant, and having to live in fear. The one thing that truly stuck was when she told me, "Jade, being shy does not have to be a characteristic and title you have to hold for the rest of your life as I did. Learn to use your voice, because it is the first thing people can truly know about you after judging you by your physical appearance." I truly took her advice when I came to Westover. I learned how to use my voice, to try new things such as my exchange trip to South Africa, to embrace being new, to learn new things from my teachers and friends, and meet people with new and unfamiliar faces. I learned how to speak publicly in front of people without being shy. Obviously, it was relatively hard at first, but my mother's words always replayed in my head. It is kind of weird and bizarre to think about the progress I have made from my childhood days. I never actually thought I would be bold enough to stand here and talk to you about my fears and my past. I am glad I was able to have this opportunity and chance to be vulnerable with such a loving community. I want to wrap up by saying if there are 2 things I would like you to take away, one is that being new is hard, but I want you to try your best and hardest to make connections. There are so many friendly faces attached to kind-hearted people at Westover. Secondly, don't be too hard on yourself. You're smart, and while at Westover you may struggle and hit a few bumps, but you must know that you're not alone and have friends, teachers, and staff to help along the way. There are many people cheering and supporting you on whether you know or not. Everyone here is in the same boat as you, a rather big boat, maybe a cruise ship. But remember, make the most of each day at Westover with all these wonderful people. Thank you.
Thank you, Jane. Our faculty speaker this morning is Jonna Dunbar. Jonna is starting her 10th year at Westover. She is the science department chair and teaches chemistry as well as a number of electives in the WISE program. She also sings in the chamber choir. Prior to Westover, Jonna earned her BS in chemical engineering from RPI and her MS in environmental engineering from Tufts. After which she worked as an environmental engineer. Jonna resides in Bethlehem, Connecticut with her husband, Bill, 3 amazing children, Sean, Kate, and Jim, and their cat, Bella. In her spare time, she enjoys being outside, spending time with family, swimming, running, cooking, playing board games. It is with that, it is my great pleasure to introduce Jonna Dunbar.
to the Canuck Institute in Canada. #Squad goals. Such a beautiful place. Lakes and hills and forests. We were there to meet with some other teachers and environmental researchers about using the great outdoors in our classes and activities. And at the very first opportunity, I ditched the rest of my amazing crew and headed out in a kayak by myself. Sorry, guys. But I had this need to get out in the quiet to really feel the place. I paddled out through the little inlets into the bigger lake, and I heard a balloon dive and then pop back up, and then a second one. If you've ever been around loons, you know how quietly they do this. These beautiful, black, sleek birds really like their privacy, and they can dive and stay in there for quite a distance. It's mesmerizing. So I followed them for a while. As I did, I heard a tree crash in the woods, insects chirping along the shore, the wind in the branches, water drip from my paddle, plants brushing the bottom of the boat. And in this silence, there wasn't at all silent. I felt connected to this beautiful place and to the people I was with, even as I had paddled away from them. There are so many ways in which we take in and become part of our surroundings. Take a few seconds and think about a place that's important to you. What brings that place alive to you? You may have noticed that I didn't say to picture an important place, but maybe you did. Maybe an image came to mind. Maybe it was a smell, a loved one's cooking, or the city in the summer. For me, the sounds of a place are what I take in most deeply, and what live in my memories. Listening helps me connect, tune in, relax, like paddling that kayak at Canuck, or grading papers with a baseball game on the radio. Listening can energize me like songs with just the right beat for running. When it's too quiet or I don't have the time or space to listen, my mind feels a little lost. So I try to give myself time and space to find the subtle sounds that will ground me. It took me a while to recognize my need to listen in order to be fully present. I grew up in a wonderful but noisy home. My mom and brother make friends with everyone they meet. My sister is the most vocally supportive person on the planet. My dad could get a car full of high schoolers, not even just his kids, singing Christmas carols on the way to school. There was always music in my house. Someone singing or whistling or playing an instrument or just listening to music. And all the talking was full volume all the time, or it seemed to be. I, on the other hand, aside from the making music part, tended to sit back and listen and observe. I realized much later on, when I had some experience with different environments and could make choices about mine, that my way of taking part in my family was kind of different. Not better or worse, just different. Luckily, my dad recognized this about me sooner than I did. He modeled how to be a good listener, especially for those talkative folks in the house. He'd wait for me to form, start, and finish a thought without jumping in. Dad was patient and thoughtful and helped me learn how to be heard. Really gregarious people, like in my family, may think that something is wrong if I'm not contributing to what they think of as normal conversation in the same way they are. But that's not true. I take it all in, and I don't hesitate to say what I want to say, but I also don't feel a need to dominate a conversation or to fill silences. And I really appreciate that my family is so great at making and maintaining relationships, calling people like me just to say hi. And I think they appreciate the steadiness that comes from my observing so intently. The listener in the room is often underestimated. So much emphasis in our culture is placed on being heard. Vocal participation and enthusiasm are encouraged. While that's great for some people, that's not the only way to contribute to a community. When I was in high school, it could be hard for me to find the right balance. I'm sure to no one's surprise, I actually liked school. I didn't feel like I stuck out for being interested in math and history and chemistry. I chimed in as appropriate, but didn't ever participate. I liked to sit at the edge of a room, but that was so I wasn't overly crowded, not because I was trying to hide. I sang in the choir, did speech and debate, even performed in a Shakespeare soliloquy competition. Plenty of participation, right? I did these things because I liked them, not because I was supposed to, so it was okay. But in other situations, I struggled to find my way. Rallying, like you just did, to me would have been exhausting. At the end of the day, I needed some quiet. I didn't want to talk on the phone, hang out, go to a game, and that can come across poorly, like not being friendly. Considering those tendencies, I was grateful and maybe a bit surprised to be chosen as a captain of the swim team my senior year. Part of the job is psyching everyone up for meets. But what my teammates appreciated was that they could talk to me, that I worked hard, that I didn't complain, and that I was there to cheer them on. There are more ways to be a valuable member of a group, to lead, than being the loudest voice in the room. One thing I love about Westover is that we do listen to people like me and Ginny. It's clear in the leaders we choose. Every year there's a variety of leadership styles represented in our elected positions. It's clear in your involvement in the Raisin Center and in your sports, dance, and theater groups. It's clear when you show respect and patience to one another in class, whether you're comfortable thinking out loud or your best one-on-one, like helping a partner solve a problem at the board. The appreciation we show for one another, regardless of volume, helps every member of the community feel valued. What else does listening and tuning into sounds do for us? I know it's not everyone's optimal way of being present, and that's okay. But I'd like to encourage everyone to be a little more conscious of sounds for reasons that are important, regardless of how you typically perceive the world. Part of taking in the sounds of my surroundings is how it reminds me to be open and accepting. If I'm listening and absorbing the sounds around me, then I'm not trying to change those sounds, asking people or places to be what they are not. It's amazing how honest sounds are. There's truth in shifting winds indicating a coming storm, or the sound of a dog's bark, or a baby's cry. If we listen, they communicate very clearly to us with no words at all. With other people, the sounds of our interactions add so much to their meaning. Yes, there are the actual words we use. But then why can something that's typed come across so differently when it's spoken? The right emojis and punctuation don't make a typed communication equal to a spoken conversation. Meaning and intent is so much more nuanced when it includes when and how we laugh, the excitement or hesitation, happiness or melancholy, and our tone of voice. Our pauses before, during, or after a difficult phrase. These sounds are so honest. Whether the conversation is light or serious, whether or not we agree, I'm far more trusting and accepting of someone when I take the time and make the effort to actually hear how they express themselves. Listening strengthens our memories of people and places. My dad died of cancer 7 years ago this September. But many of his sounds are near and dear to my heart. He had a beautiful singing voice that sounded a lot like John Denver's. Kind of looked like him too. So his songs always bring that back. He would sing/talk these super boring nonsense songs to my kids when they were babies that put them right to sleep. I can't reproduce that one out loud, but I know it in my head. It's a riot. He was a great golfer, and as he practiced his swing anywhere and everywhere, he always made a little as he'd strike the ball. He had this super smart engineer voice, his professor voice, his grandpa voice, his you're in trouble voice. In the last few weeks he was alive, he couldn't talk very much. Spending time with him meant really tuning out all the other noise. I'd hold his hand and talk to him and listen to his breathing, both glad to hear that sound and sad for the struggle in him. But I'm thankful that I have these sounds, even the hard ones. It's such a vivid part of how I remember him. This specific place that we call home is full of sounds that scream Westover, sometimes quite literally, quite rarely. Before you students come back to school, Westover doesn't sound right. It needs your conversations, laughter, footsteps, music. As you go through this year, really tune in to the little sounds that tell you you're at Westover. Really hear the 4:30 bells the stomping and shuffling of marching practice, the Middle English of the Canterbury Tales from Rome. Have a good day from the heads of school. The gentle closing of your chapel hymnal. The clicking of a dorm room door latch, the beautiful balance of Glee Club voices, the fading of Podier at the end of Canterbury's, and the many other songs of our traditions. Generations of students know these sounds. They live in our community and connect us to one another. These sounds place you here, ground you here. Finally, it's important to find sounds that allow you to be present with yourself. Maybe your preferred soundtrack sounds like mine, where the quiet of nature helps you focus, and music energizes you. Maybe you prefer to be around people, to be surrounded by and part of the conversations. Give yourself the time to listen honestly and feel what works and what doesn't. Ditch your friends and head out in a kayak if you need to. And just listen. You'll know it when you hear it. Thank you.
Delighted to be starting her 5th year as head of school. She serves as a board member of the Connecticut Association of Independent Schools, and this past summer became a board member of TABS, the Association of Boarding Schools. Last year, Julie worked to create a Women's Empowerment Summit on campus, and we will again host the 2nd summit this winter as a result of her vision. This summit encompasses Ms. Falstick's philosophy on women and girls and leadership roles, and her belief that leadership is not just about achieving executive status, but truly about leading your life by your design. Julie grew up outside of Boston, earned her BA in history from Smith College, and earned her MFA in creative writing from Emerson College. She lives in Henry House with her dogs, Nessa and Fen, and looks forward to hosting the community there throughout the year. With that, I give you our head of school, Julie Falstick.
All right, people. It amazes me, I say this every year, the themes that carry through this convocation that we don't plan is always amazing to me. So it's been a beautiful week for the opening of school. It's been happy, and there's been sunshine, and there's been cool breezes, and today has been the best day of them all. But there is so much churn out in the world. There's fires in the Amazon, there's a big hurricane that is going up the coast of the United States, and sometimes it feels like we hear nothing but bad news. So I wanted to talk about some really good news from this past summer so we can reflect and linger on some powerful inspiration to start the school year. And this is the victory of the U.S. women's soccer team in the World Cup. And I want to start off by acknowledging the New York Times and National Public Radio for helping me out with my research to recap the victory and for the great interviews with some of these players. And this, beginning with this really great quote. With the swagger of pop stars and the inevitability of a freight train, the U.S. women's team won its 4th World Cup victory this summer. So many have agreed that this was the toughest and most competitive women's World Cup field ever. The U.S. team scored 26 goals and only allowed 3. They never trailed, and they won 7 straight games against formidable rivals. And after their win, the Dutch team posted its own tribute video to them. So a team they defeated posted a tribute video. So think about that. And it stated, "You showed us where dedication and ambition can bring you." And also think about those 2 words, dedication and ambition. This has not been a normal, excellent sports team. This is an incredibly talented group of women who are not shy about declaring their excellence. They are indeed ambitious, and I think some women feel ambition is perhaps impolite. They are audacious. They speak up and demand to be heard and paid attention to. They are not demure. Their more visible players, like Megan Rapinoe, are downright cool. A little arrogant, a little swagger, a little, hey, look at me, all the while not really caring what other people think. So often, prominent women who speak their minds are criticized as being shrill or unlikable. But it is quite clear these accomplished female athletes are beyond caring about that risk and are daring us to judge them by the same criteria we judge cool male athletes who go out on the field or the court and wow the crowd with their talent, making it look fun and making it look effortless. Megan Rapinoe said, "For girls now, it is amazing to see different types of women coming to power." And the women's team represents more than athletic excellence. Before the tournament, they had started a gender discrimination lawsuit against US soccer. The headlines have been about the pursuit of equal pay with men's soccer, but as Megan Rapinoe told the New York Times, the lawsuit actually covers a lot. In a broad sense, it's about equal investment and equal care of both men's and women's sides. Whether it's youth team programs, marketing, the branding of the team, how they sell tickets, what they spend advertising money on, what they pay each side, and what they spend on support staff, what they spend on coaching, what's in the travel budget, it's all of that. But equal pay for equal work remains a serious issue. The women's team received a $4 million bonus for winning versus the winning's men's team received a $38 million bonus. Think about that gap. Women in general still only make 80 cents on the dollar for men for the same job. So my wish for you is to use the safe space at Westo to become a little more audacious, to speak up, and even speak up in a way that's comfortable for you. We all can't be Megan Rapinoe. Most of us can't be Megan Rapinoe, even if we're garrulous. But speak up in a way that's comfortable for you. As Jane said, find your voice. Understand what you're worth and fully internalize that your value is equal to that of a man or anyone else. This is not about taking anything away from men, but in my experience, men are much less worried about coming across as demanding, impolite, or worried about rocking the boat or causing a problem. Many members of the women's team have been asked about how they feel both doing their jobs as world-class athletes and unapologetically and consistently showing up as a force for equity and social justice. Co-captain Alex Morgan responded, "I don't think we know soccer without distraction. We feel like we have always been fighting for a seat at the table, and we have always fought for everything that we have earned." And here is the thing, for the foreseeable future, the effort is going to need to be put in. You won't need to be great just at what you do, but you will have to put in that effort to speak up. And again, speak up in a way that's comfortable for you. Find your voice. But I think that effort gives so much back to you. It opens your eyes to all the other people in the world who also need to speak up. It makes you understand that some people are awarded basic human rights as a matter of course. It makes you grateful for what you have and for what you take for granted. Because for every woman who is asking for equal pay, there is someone behind her who is asking for equality regarding something even more essential and basic. We are all in this together. This world, this making meaning out of being human. In this room right now, we have people from all over the planet, from all kinds of backgrounds and experiences. We all carry burdens and are also grateful for the luck we've had. And my motto for the year is, be a human. Approach others with compassion and openness. Ask a question instead of making a judgment. No one has all the answers. Megan Rapinoe told an interviewer that when she was a teenager, she felt like an outsider. And here is the big secret. We all feel like outsiders sometimes, even the most insidery insider. I guarantee you, any new girl in this room who is feeling a little bit on the outside, like this has been hard to transition, and you look at someone else who's come back and you feel like, well, they must feel comfortable. They might feel comfortable now, but they probably didn't always, and they won't in the future. Everybody goes through this experience. And some people won't admit it, but this is true. So maybe when you notice someone is feeling like an outsider, invite them in. Be friendly and warm and welcoming. The power of role modeling is not to be underestimated. And let me just say that again. The power of role modeling is not to be underestimated. Remember that everyone has a bad day, but also remember that tomorrow is another day and a clean slate. And here's another quote from Alex Morgan when asked if she still works on her game. I do work on a lot of different parts of my game. One thing I've really progressed on is my awareness of my teammates and knowing my teammates, and everyone's strengths and weaknesses, so we were on the same page. And I think people saw that in the World Cup, we were dominating not just because we had great individual players, but we all understood each other. This senior class is role modeling how to care about each other. This doesn't mean you always agree, and it doesn't mean you're all best friends. But if we all sincerely cared about each other, I can guarantee you we would live in a better world. So related to athletics, and to go from the sublime to the ridiculous, I wanted to conclude with a little story about the importance of just showing up and giving it your best. Because it's okay if things are hard. Life has hard aspects to it, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it, and hang in there. So this summer I bought a spin bike, because I'm getting old and I thought it was probably time to do something other than walking the dogs, and a number of friends of mine have recommended getting a spin bike. So I bought this fancy spin bike, and it's kind of intimidating, and it's sitting in my house. So the first day I get on it, and my dogs follow me into the room where the bike is to watch, and they settle in. And you have to clip in, and I've never really done this before, you gotta clip in to these pedals with these spin shoes, and that's kind of intimidating too, but I figured it out. I got on the bike, and I clipped in, and I started to ride, and I'm grooving to the music, and I'm getting into it, and I'm thinking, I can do this. This is good, I can get better at this. And then all of a sudden, like, my knees are up to my ears, and I can barely turn the pedals. So I hadn't tightened the seat before I got on. The problem is I slipped in, and you need leverage to clip out. So I have no leverage because I'm like this. And starting to wonder how I'm ever going to get off, or if I'm going to be stuck here until I don't show up at school and someone comes to find me. And the dogs just turn around and leave in this So I did manage to finally pry the shoes off my feet, leave them on the pedals. But here's the important message. The next day, I tightened the seat, I climbed aboard, and I tried it again. It did not happen. I am not, believe me, the world's greatest spin athlete, and nor will I ever be. But even though there was some level of embarrassment, I persevered, and now I could do something, even at my own minimal level, that I wasn't sure I could actually do. And it's just going to keep getting easier over time. That's the other thing that you need to keep in mind. Everything gets easier the more you do it. You know, if you're right now, you can't remember where your classes are, or where the rooms are, and you're feeling like you're running from place to place, that's all going to get easier. If you show up, you can't do it wrong. And you may not be the best, and there's no guaranteeing you're going to get an A, but you will learn something you didn't know yesterday, and you will improve. So that's the important thing. If you keep showing up, you just can't do it wrong. Keep showing up. Keep building your confidence about what you're worth every day. And remember, everyone else is on this journey too. We all have days we don't want to show up, but do it anyway. Be a human and have a fantastic year. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to ask Catherine Elby, our Director of Teaching and Learning, to come up and present the Margaret Love Stevens Chair for Moral and Ethical Education.
focus on the character education of its students is woven into every aspect of the daily life of the school community, not just in the classroom or the chapel, but on the playing fields, gymnasium courts, along the dormitory corridors, in the dining hall, in club meetings, excursions beyond the walls of the school, and between every exchange of ideas that takes place among faculty, staff, and students. This wide range of moral education does not occur in a vacuum. It requires the commitment and leadership of the entire adult community within Westover, teaching faculty, dorm parents, administrative staff, coaches, club advisors. The opportunities for moral education arise from the daily interactions of the adults with one another and the students. They reflect the individual's commitment to lead by example and to share their educational disciplines, their personal interests, and their life experiences in a way that enhances the moral, spiritual, and ethical lives of students. The recipient of this year's Margaret Love Stevens Award is a perfect fit. I think you'll agree with me. Consider a few of the faculty remarks about this person's moral, spiritual, and ethical influence on our community. See if you can figure out who this is before I say it. He is a cheerful and supportive presence on campus. He is a warm, kind, thoughtful, intelligent, gifted, resourceful, generous, and knowledgeable, and skilled, brilliant colleague, teacher, mentor, and leader. He is a part of Westover's rich cultural heritage. The traditions and celebrations are special because he carefully infuses them with depth and meaning. You narrowing down your choices a little? He gives constantly, seemingly all day, to his students to help them to achieve all they can. His dedication to his craft and his ability to share his knowledge and understanding with students is phenomenal. His work in tireless giving has blessed the entire school, and he is fundamentally decent, kind, and a generous teacher and person. See if you're right. This faculty member is now beginning his 52nd year as director of our music program. He has worked in some capacity with every single Westover student during his tenure. That's huge. Either in Glee or in one of the a cappella groups, on performance trips to New York and Europe. In the humanities courses, he's taught with English and art history faculty in preparation for candlelight and other traditions, or simply at our weekly chapel services. I am immensely humbled to present this year's Margaret Love Stevens Award for Moral and Ethical Education to our colleague, Bob Embry.
Please stand for the singing group.
Thank you.
pleasure to recognize students who earned high honors with distinctions the entire 2018-2019 school year. Please stand to be recognized and stay standing until I've read all of the names. We'll hold our applause until the end. Zoe Altamidi, Emily Benoit, Phoenix Bernardin, Ellen Young, Grace Brown, Natalie Kalo, Brittany Sincoli, Veva Chan, Haley Cronin, Andrea Demiraj, Tate Dunbar, Naomi Philippian, Ava Finiteri, Lisa Howe, Katarina Hirschner, Casey Ingerson, Kara Khalife, Irene Kim, Selena Kurokon, Michaela Levisier, Jennifer Lee, Artemis Lee, Jasmine Lee, Lisa Liu, Julia Mariano, Jemima Mariano, you're all right. Sophia Nappy, Fatima Nasir, Catherine Yoon, Sarah Pino, Sage Potbecker, Annie Cole, Olivia Racebeck, Rebecca Rowe, McKenna Rowe, Rin Sakakabara, Marianella Salinas, Katie Sauer, Emily Wang Si, Julia Stell, Ami Takakashi, Aubrey Taylor, Maria Ayuda, Max Van, Caroline Wan, Isabella Lang, Katie Wolf, Janelle Wu, and Joyce Yang. Congratulations.
Is the Westover Scholastic Award. This goes to the returning student who was the highest average for the preceding year, regardless of class. This year, the award goes to Casey Ingerson. Goes to the returning student who, in the opinion of the faculty and administration, has made excellent use of her abilities and the opportunities available to her, and who possesses the character, the spirit, and the will to persevere in reaching her goals. This year, the award goes to Zoe Altamidi. Is presented to an academically outstanding senior. This award is based on personal qualities and contribution to school life. This year, the award goes to Catherine Katie Hunter. We have one more. The Elizabeth M. and Joseph L. Mulder Scholarship Award goes to a student who has attended Westover for at least 2 years. She must be capable academically and possess personal qualities such as enthusiasm for life and learning, integrity, concern for others, self-discipline, resiliency, and sense of fairness. This year, the award goes to Marianella Salinas.